Well, here to discuss this is Alp Mehmet from the campaign group Migration Watch UK and Alex Glennie from the Institute for Public Policy and Research. Good evening to both of you. Alp Mehmet, if I could turn to you first, we heard there some concerns from Harrow Council about it being a possible drain on resources, but the issue here is, I suppose, we don't really know what to expect.
It's not a case of looking at it as a drain or not a drain. The fact is that we reckon something like 50,000 a year will come in addition over the next 5 years. Most of those will be in the London area. It's what the consequences of that are. Schools.
That's an estimate, isn't it? Those numbers are a guesstimate.
We've taken various factors into consideration. It is our judgment. It's the sort of judgment that we used last time round when we were right, frankly, and the government was wrong, when we said that a lot more would come from Poland and the other Eastern European countries than actually did in the end.
Well, I think the situation is quite different this time around, actually. Bulgarians and Romanians have been able to come and work in the UK since 2007, so it's not the same as 2004 when people were given immediate access to the labour market. Sort of the gates opened and a lot of people came. This time around, a lot of people who want to come from Romania and Bulgaria will already be here.
So the argument is it's good for the economy?
It is good for the economy, but I think sort of putting it in those terms is quite difficult. We need to think about the impacts.
Well, no, come on now. There's got to be more to the economy than whether or not we can get a cheap cup of coffee from Starbucks or Costas. What about the children?
What about the children?
What about the children who are going to need schooling in a few years' time? We're told now we've got by 2016-17 there's going to be a shortage of 103,000 places. What about the housing that the mayor says we need, 40,000 a year?
Let me put that point actually to Alex Glennie, because there are practical issues here that are raised. It's a fair point, isn't it? It will put pressure on resources.
Of course. I mean, large numbers coming into new areas do put pressure on housing and school places. But the point of having these transitional controls in place, and we've had 7 years to prepare for the impacts of this, there was time to think about where these impacts would be and how we could prepare for them properly to make sure that they wouldn't cause additional pressures.
What if those numbers are wrong, though?
Well, that's something we're going to have to wait and see. It's going to be hard to know until people start coming next year.
There are 1 million Romanians in Spain. There are 1 million, a similar number in Italy, about 1 million. A lot of those are unemployed. A lot of those in Germany, actually, I heard this morning from a Romanian, are not that happy. They would prefer to come here. What's going to happen to those 2 million in Spain and Italy? That's the sort of thing that's never taken into account.
The restrictions are also at the same time going to be lifted in other countries. Take, for example, Germany, which would be very attractive, France, Spain, Netherlands. So perhaps there's nothing to say that they will all come to the UK or particularly London, is there?
Well, there's a lot more than 50,000 a year, frankly, who are going to be leaving Romania to be going to other countries. We reckon that of those leaving, about 50,000 a year on average over the next 5 years will end up here.
A final thought to you, Alex.
I think there's been too much emphasis on the numbers. It's important to think about how many will come, but it's more important to think about the impacts that this will have and to prepare properly for the areas that will see larger numbers, such as London.
OK, to you both. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.